ladies and gentlemen, Trump has ordered the meat plants back open by executive order. They had to close these plants because hundreds and hundreds of people were getting sick and some have died. My heart goes out to these folks that have to work in these conditions because, you know, I'm just thinking about their families. Many of these people are the breadwinners in their household. If something happens to them, the impact on their families will be devastating. And you can't even count out the amount of people that are single parents working in these places, and they're in harm's way every day. Somebody like Trump that will arrogantly force them back to work, he's not there. He's not there working and putting himself in harm's way at all. So, ladies and gentlemen, and another thing I want to say about this, these employers want to push you back into these conditions where it's like an incubator for coronavirus. How many of them are paying you extra pay because you are working in a safety hazard when you return back to work? I'm just telling y'all, this concept of social distancing and doing all these things when you return back to your job is simply not going to work. I don't care what amount of social distancing you do, you all still got to grab the same doorknob to get in and out of that building. You all have to still push the same buttons to get on the elevator. And you still have to somewhat interact with people. And we know this thing is airborne. So even with social distancing on jobs, it is impossible for you not to come in contact with somebody that have this on your job. Remember, you got a lot of asymptomatic people walking around that show no symptoms at all, but they have it. No matter what, if you got a kitchen at your job or a coffee maker at your job, everybody's going to be touching that stuff. Everybody's going to be using the kitchen. You're going to be using the refrigerator at your job. You're going to be going in and out of automatic doors or whatever way you get into the building. You're going to have to punch in codes on the same keypad. I just don't see how any of this is going to be avoided, even if you put forth your best effort. The numbers are already going up in Georgia, and they just reopened just days ago. So this came out in NPR April 29th, 2020. Workers scared as Trump orders meat plants to open during coronavirus crisis. Trump invoked the Defense Production Act to keep meat packing plants in the U.S. open during the coronavirus pandemic. Tuesday's move comes after more than a dozen beef, pork, and poultry plants across the country shut down either temporarily or indefinitely in the past few weeks. The president's executive order to keep the plants open notes that some of the plant closures may be inconsistent with worker safety guidance issued by the Center for Disease Control and Prevention and Occupational Safety and Health Administration. And sorry about that unnecessary plant closures can have a big impact on the meat supply chain. That constitutes a necessity. Closure isn't universally agreed upon. The worker safety guidelines the president pointed to were only issued on Sunday, well after a lot of plants announced temporary and indefinite closures in response to coronavirus outbreaks among workers. And what good is this going to do if everybody ultimately ends up so sick they can't work? When these plants were opened, ladies and gentlemen, the number of cases were jumping up on a daily basis. If you got a sick workforce, what good is that going to do you? Okay. Meatpacking workers in several states have protested plants staying open. Prior to releasing the order, Trump said that using it to invoke the Defense Production Act would solve any liability problems meatpacking companies might have. The full legal ramifications aren't clear, but his order overrules any state or local directives shutting down meatpacking facilities. Wow. It clearly gives authority to the Department of Agriculture to enforce the new worker safety guidelines, to determine national priorities for keeping the meat supply chain going, and to help companies do that. You know, ladies and gentlemen, you would have to sanitize these places all day long. And even doing all of that sanitizing, that still don't say somebody in that plant is not going to walk in with it. It's hard to keep places like that completely sanitized. I mean, I know they do, but shoot, man. Um, it clearly gives authority to the Department of Agriculture to enforce the new worker safety guidelines and to determine national priorities for keeping the meat supply chain going and to help companies do that. So, Trump's concern is for the companies, not the workers. That's what this move is all about. It's all about putting the company first, screw the workers. Just keep replacing them if they fall sick. The hell with them. I mean, that's really what he's saying. In Nebraska on Tuesday, some of the 2,000 workers at a Smithfield food pork plant outside Lincoln briefly walked off the job to protest plans to keep open the facility, which has reported 48 COVID-19 cases. Reporter Christina Stella at Net Nebraska spoke to a worker at the plant in Crete who they asked to be anonymous because they feared losing their job for speaking out. And that's what's happening. We see Amazon doing that. And we see hospitals doing that with doctors and nurses that speak out about the lack of equipment. They're now firing you. You're not allowed to say nothing about the conditions. It's almost like the plant owners don't care about us, the worker said. They really don't. They really don't. It's not like they seem like they don't care. They really, truly don't. Just keep production going, keep the money coming in. Whatever they can do to just keep going. That's how I feel. And I know I am not the only one who's actually scared. A statement from Smithfield Food on Wednesday said it applauds the Trump administration for taking, wow, decisive action to invoke emergency powers, and that across all of its facilities, the company is providing team members with abundant personal protective equipment, including masks and face shields, and has implemented mass thermal scanning and installed physical barriers on its production floors and break areas. Smithfield said it guaranteed pay to employees impacted by COVID-19 and would dedicate $120 million to bonuses for workers despite closing multiple facilities and dangerous lines falling dormant. Working conditions in the plant make them susceptible to outbreaks. Yes, it does. A huge conveyor belt hung with carcasses snared through the facility, and to churn out lots of meat, workers stood in close quarters, cutting meat as far less than 6 feet between them. There are thousands of workers in these plants at one time, and they also share break rooms, cafeteria, and locker rooms. See, you can't keep this thing out of there. The more spaces these employees share, the more likely you're going to have outbreaks. It's going to be more outbreaks there. It can't be avoided. The United Food and Commercial Workers Union said they shared these broader concerns about America's food supply and asked for daily coronavirus testing at some meatpacking facilities and better access to personal protective equipment like masks and gloves. Wow. My heart goes out to these people. How do you even feel at ease doing your job when something like this is going on? But y'all, please tell me what you think. Please leave your comment and subscribe. Don't forget to hit on the notification bell, and I'll see you on the next video. Peace, family.